Again, usual housekeeping, we've got everybody on mute except for you and I, because obviously we want to hear what you're saying. If anybody has any questions, then again, just pop it in the group chat, or you can message me one-to-one. Yeah, we'll come to those at the end. So as we're going through, just pop those in the chat box. Can everybody hear me okay? Because it feels like I'm echoing a little bit. So just let me know if there's something going on with that. But Kate, how are you? I'm going to introduce it in a minute, but yeah, how are you doing?
I'm really well, thank you. Yeah, in the craziness of the world and the way that we are right now, I'm feeling good, thank you.
That's cool. I know, it's been crazy, hasn't it? Anne's just said in the USA, the time change, so it's actually 4 o'clock. Okay, cool, that's worth knowing. I did think that because I had some meetings that were meant to be, yeah, anyway. Right, so anyway, this summit is all about self-rediscovery. So for you, Kat, I'm just going to explain that a little bit, and for anybody who's kind of new as well, because for me, I think self-rediscovery is kind of, some people come to it expecting it to be about how to kind of change our lives, and I think that is kind of part of it. But for me, it's also kind of twofold. So it's about exploring who we really are beyond all thought, in our, kind of beyond our humanness, if that makes sense. So like our true connection. I think you kind of define that as magic. So we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through. But it's been really exciting having these inspiring conversations and chatting to different people, because it's nice to see how we all have different labels for the same thing, and we're kind of all pointing to the same thing, really. And so it's really about kind of seeing how we can unravel a life we love from magic, or whatever word you want to use. But yeah, it's nice to hear from the different speakers about their own journeys. We've had lots of different things, from habits, eating, mental health, money, through to the wisdom in the female cycle, writing, creativity, and yeah, all sorts of different things. So it's kind of nice. We're always live on Friday until the end of March, and then the replay is also available, so people will be watching this after at home as well. So if there are any questions, do pop them in the box, or if you've got any questions after, I'm always here on hand, or in the Facebook group, to kind of answer those. So Kate, I'm going to formally introduce you, and then you can just explain who you are without the formalness. But yeah, we're really lucky to have Kate here. I love how much Kate kind of playfully creates so much. Like she's like a creative powerhouse. And she has so many amazing things. She's got her practical magic deck that kind of offers us a beautiful reminder of our wisdom. And she's also creating an amazing festival called The Awakening in the Isle of Wight, which I am excited to be speaking at as well this year. She's got an amazing story that's kind of behind all that, which I'm hoping she might share today. Yeah, about the importance of kind of tuning into our magic, really. So Kate, you describe yourself as a lover of disco balls, a bright red lip, and more leopard print than is necessary, which I love. And you're an empowerment coach, creative coach, writer, and speaker. You're on a one-woman mission to help others live life full of creative expression in order to live well, work well, and feel good. And you've contributed to various best-selling books, as well as regularly being invited to speak on stage, podcasts, and radio shows about living a big, bold, beautiful life. Expect magic, big hugs, fierce loyalty, more than a few F-bombs, and an impromptu dance break. So there's big expectations here, just saying.
Yeah, and I'm going to try and keep the F-bombs to a minimum, but I do have passion, so if one does slip out, I'm apologizing now, or not apologizing. I'm trying using the hashtag sorry not sorry to be much more bolder in the way that we are. I mean, thank you so much, and I just want to say thank you, Nicole, for hosting this space and opening these magical conversations, and having this forum where people can share and listen, and doing the work that we all do. It's such a great platform, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you as well.
Yeah, how do you want me to start this? Shall I go about sharing it? How I get to do what I'm doing?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I think there's going to be a couple of points that we'll touch on, because for me, I often talk about how there's nothing to do, and I know almost kind of in general, life coaches are kind of like, right, let's do this and let's do this. So I'm hoping that'll be one of the points we cover, but it's just kind of really just going to flow. So I'd love for you to just start off and explore your kind of personal story and your journey, really, and then we can,
yeah. So thank you. So I guess the place to start is how I got to doing what I'm doing, which is always evolving and always changing and always growing and always, you know, the creativity that I have tuned into. I mean, I've always been a creative person, and in the way that I talk about creativity isn't necessarily to draw or to paint, but for me, creativity is the way that I show up in the world and the way that I'm here to help people. And I guess the way that that started was I was working in advertising agency life, and I was at a point in my life I'd had a series of challenges that the pivotal moments which define us and make us who we are. And I love how, you talk about the freedom that we have from suffering. Well, my freedom from suffering was the fact that I'd lost my mum very, very quickly in 2006. We really weren't expecting her to go, and she died from a stress-related illness. She died from cancer on the adrenal glands. And I didn't know it at the time. Obviously, that's always a pivoting point, but how much that influences the work that I do now. So she died in 2006, and then my dad, who'd had Parkinson's for a long time, died 2 years later. And in that in-between bit, obviously there was a lot of coming out of myself, I guess. I remember waking up the day after she died and putting my feet on the floor and just going, oh, I've got permission to live now, whereas before I kind of been floating. So that 2 years was a complete transition. And after Dad died, I was working up in London in an advertising agency world. I'd moved up back from the Isle of Wight. And I was at a place in my life where I'd got married in the in-between bit. Call it the in-between bit. I got married in that time, but something wasn't right. I was working in a job that I was doing really well in, but it didn't feel like this was the thing that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I knew that there was more, and having lost both my parents, I see as being the biggest gift that they could have ever given me, because it allowed me to really do that searching into, there is more to this world. Mum died just as she was hitting her retirement phase, and she didn't get the chance to enjoy it because she'd worked so hard all her life. And I was basically repeating the patterns that they did, working hard, playing hard. Well, I was working hard and playing hard. And I got to that point where there was just so many questions that I had about my existence and what I was here to do. And none of it seemed to make sense. And I couldn't answer those questions myself. It was completely stuck in my head. So somebody had said to me, well, why don't you go and see a coach? And I was like, I'd heard of this thing called life coaching. So it was ever so American and not necessarily for me at the time. And it's no disrespect to Americans, I might just add. But back in the day where we were, it didn't, it wasn't a very British thing to do. And I went to see this amazing guy called Matt, who later had allowed me to start connecting into a more spiritual journey. There's something beyond. And it really helped me to not just rationally and logically get what I needed to get out of my head, but it allowed me to tune back into the something more, the magic again, that I'd had when I was so much younger, but then my corporate career kind of knocked out of me. And from that point, kind of went on a journey, as we all do. And I hit it a point, and maybe a couple of years later, I went onto the coaching journey. I studied NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which was, I'm always been absolutely fascinated in human behavior and how we can get out of our limitations. I guess when I look back at my dharma, if you like, and follow the breadcrumbs, I can see that I was always here to support people and help people. But now I had a job that I could actually do that in. So I had been in this coaching NLP world, absolutely loved it, but I was still very much disconnected. And by disconnected, I mean literally from the neck down. I had no connection to full range of emotions. I was obviously very numb still from grief, and I had been very logical in the way that I was approaching the next career phase I was doing with coaching and helping people. And it got to a point where everything from the outside looked absolutely amazing, but on the inside, like I say, I couldn't access anything. I had walked away from the marriage, and I had decided that I was going to create a new life, and I'd done all of the things on paper that coaching journey had looked like the best vision of everything. You know, when we put the vision board up, and I literally had the house by the sea and the dog that I'd called Bertie. I literally had everything that I'd put my mind to, and I say put my mind to because I absolutely had. But there was still something missing. And it wasn't until, and this is, you know, I love these divine intervention moments. I was at a friend's hen party, and there was a tarot card reader there. And I wasn't going to see the tarot card reader because I had kind of started delving into spiritual things, but I wasn't going to see this tarot card reader until she was putting her coat on. And then I found myself sat opposite her, and she was like, I've been waiting for you. And I was like, of course you have. You're the tarot card reader. You would know this. Anyway, she the cards I pulled were all around water that couldn't flow. So there was a dammed river, and there was, you know, different cards that were coming up. I mean, 6 different cards, all of them about stuck water. And the last card that I pulled were 2 stuck together, and the card that came from the bottom was an iceberg. And she was like, Kate, if you need any more indication that this energy is stuck in your body, that it can't flow, like, it's here, what else do you need? And so I was like, okay, I get it, now what do I do? And she gave the most frustrating answer in the world. She said, you'll know when you know. And I was like, come on, you're the tarot card reader, just help me, show me. And she was like, you'll know when you know. So me being me, I went full head into kinesiology, Reiki, like literally everything that I could do to release this stuck energy. I went very masculine, very yang into it. And on the sidelines, I've been seeing my friend had been starting to do this movement practice called Koya. And there was a fabulous picture of her in front of this gold curtain, really flowing. And Koya means queen. And I kept going, ugh, queen, feminine energy. Oh no, I don't need that in my life. I'm busy, thanks. You know, I know how to dance. It's fine. I don't need to go to it. Really, like that physical sensation and resistance. And as most things happen, I found myself at a workshop, and I was there supporting some friends who were hosting this workshop. And there was a song, because in Koya you get to a free dance, which is like the pinnacle. And it was Katy Perry Firework, and I was spinning round and round with my arms aloft. And it was like I was in the middle of a festival field having the best time of my life. And just these sensations of joy just flooded my body. And I literally felt every single part of me come back to life. And it was in that moment I was like, this is a thing that she was talking about. So within 3 months, I found myself on a plane, very much following my intuition, on a plane to Costa Rica to learn how to teach this movement practice. And whilst I was there and we were meditating through every day and doing movement and moving the body, I kept getting these visualizations. And I very much, when I'm meditating, see energy as color. And I kept getting, I would get purple a lot when I meditated, but I started seeing blues and all of these incredible colors. And the meditations I was having was like this treasure chest that had been rusted shut. And then throughout the week, it was just opening and all these colors were coming out. And I remember saying to Rochelle, the founder of Koya, like, I know these things called chakras, but like, what does this color mean? What does this color mean? And what, very much intuitively guided to that. And she would explain, I was like, oh God, that makes so much sense. And it was like my wild colors were coming back. And so that's really where all of it came together. And since that time has just been this creative explosion in my work and how I communicate with people and how I talk very much from the heart and connect to other people from their hearts. And this is how the elements of all the practical work that I do in the coaching sense and the magic, which is the tuning into the body, this incredible vessel, and tuning into the energy and the wisdom of all the ancient technologies that we have access to be coming back to a place of center and to be guided by our intuition. And that allows us to be this fullest expression of ourselves. And like you said at the beginning, I am a creative machine. I cannot stop. So everything's just being born from that unlocking, the unrusting of the chains and this world explosion. And that's where I am today. But everything that I do comes back really to the essence of, are we looking after ourselves in the first instance? Because it comes back to that, losing my mum because her body gave up and her body was so worn out. And I see it everywhere. I see depletion everywhere. And when people come to me to work, the first thing we generally work on is a self-care plan, because they're at a point where they're stuck at a crossroads and they're so worn out and they can't make decisions because they're just exhausted.
Yeah.
So that's where we start, and then that's where we can create whatever it is, this big, bold, beautiful life that comes out of the chrysalis as a result of that.
Yeah. Wow, what a story. And there's kind of so much in that I don't even know where to begin with diving into it. It's like
There's a lot of layers to that. Good luck.
Thank you for sharing that. I think what comes to mind initially is it's almost like for me, I always say there's like this moment of where you just see something differently. And so there's a lot of that in your journey, it seems. It's like you just awakened, or I think you even said, like, I woke up the next day and it just looked different. And I think for me, that's that kind of moment where it inspires change almost. And for me, that's why I kind of say, there's almost nothing to do, because it's just a case that suddenly we wake up and we see something completely differently, and it creates this new path for us. And so that kind of struck me as like, that was your pivotal point, that kind of transition was that moment of insight. And that kind of, again, I love the story about the cards, because I know you have your cards that you've created to kind of help people tap back into.
Let me get them so we can pull a card whilst we're here. I think that would be really good. 1 second. They're just right here. Yes, carry on.
So maybe you can tell us a little bit about the cards, because again, for me, I think I see your cards, and I might be wrong about this, but you talked about kind of returning to your magic. And I think for me, your journey as well, when you talk about the dance, it's almost like that reminded you of your magic in a way. It's like, oh, this is what lights me up. And it reminded you of that kind of lit up feeling that's kind of always there within all of us, but we maybe don't see it because, like you say, we're living in our heads, we're living in lives that we think that we should be living in, if that makes sense. So I don't know whether that's how your cards work, whether it's kind of almost like a reminder of what's already there, because that's very much how I see wisdom. Like, it's always there, we just don't always see it.
So this is the Practical Magic Activation deck, and I call it a life coach in a box because essentially that's the easiest reference point for people to be able to get it. But the tagline is to activate your inner wisdom, because, like you say, we have got it inside of us. We've got this sovereignty, this magic, this wisdom inside all of us, that when we're in a life of stress, of burnout, of fear, anxiety, of lack, of shoulds and obligations, what we're doing is we're living from a place of, we're trying to logically think our way through it, and we confuse ourselves with lots of different messages that come from externally how we should be doing things. But with underneath, we've got this incredible vessel. So I use the metaphor. There's so many incredible metaphors for the head and body connection. There's the conscious mind, the unconscious mind. There's those two cards pulled together that were together, and the one that was stuck, the iceberg. We see the tip and then what's underneath it. The Easter Island heads, for example, the head that you see is above the surface of the land, and then there's the whole body underneath it, because the whole body was revered as a temple for something to be worshipped. And within this incredible depth that we've got is this wisdom, is this magic. And when we're so up here, we don't recognize it. So we don't tune to it, we don't get connected to it. That's why we're learning so much about gut health now, for example, that it's all in the inside. that we can connect to. So that sense of being disconnected, being in the head, means that we're not tuning into what's so much more, the expansiveness. Another metaphor is the 1% versus the 99%. You know, we're living in a 1% 3D reality, when actually the quantum is the 99%, where we can access so much more, same as an atom. 0.0.1 is
Yeah, and what I love about that is we kind of can't really always explain that. It's something we can't really intellectualize, and I think that's very much what I'm hearing, is there is like this, because I talk a lot about thought and how, you know, we can even in the sense of like, because I know you've mentioned disconnection a few times, and for me now I see about wisdom that is kind of always there. It's like we can never really truly be disconnected from it. We can just think we are. It's almost like we're living in our heads thinking that we're disconnected, but it's always there. We just can't see it, if that makes sense. So I don't know whether you agree with that. But.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And the way that the cards then work is the magic word of intuition. So it's that thing that we don't necessarily, you know, we may, and I'm sure that you're listening to this and you will be somebody who is very much guided by intuition. You've been guided by intuition to be here, but having something that you can instantly access, that goes beyond the conscious thought, that connects you to that intuition and that energy, is it's just a simple, valuable tool to be able to have. And the reason,
it's like when I use cards, I kind of see them as like a reminder. It's like every single
yeah,
card in the pack is almost true. It's just we can't see it, but it's like pull one and you're like a reminder of our wisdom. It's like, for me, that's how I kind of use them.
yeah, I mean, they're called, I love these cards because they're called practical magic cards. And it's what's great about that is that it's for people who are as much in the woo crew as are not. You know,
Yeah.
does the same thing. And I was at the Mindful Living show last week, and sometimes when you're in an environment and people haven't come across something like this before, they're like, cards, they're like those tarot things, aren't they? Oh no, that's just way too much for me. It's like, just pull one and see what comes up. And then they go, oh, that's weird, isn't it? And I go, yeah, it is, isn't it?
That's what I love about you, is like there's this real kind of human side, and I very much point to kind of like, again, even the self-rediscovery, it's like, who are we beyond that, which is, I guess, you could label that as spirituality, or, you know, whatever you want to call it. But there's also, for me, it's like, well, who do we want to be in our humanness? Who can we play as? And so there's that kind of humanness like you're talking about. There's some people who relate to that and don't necessarily kind of get the spiritual side of it, but there's lots of different labels for people who.
Oh, totally. And it's an interesting conversation, actually, because I was on a call earlier. I was invited onto another person's coaching call, and it was really interesting that she said, I've literally got some people on here, and one person is completely on one side of being very spiritually connected. Well, we're all spiritually connected. One person's really woo, and I've got somebody on the other side who's completely on the other side of it. And we had an incredible discussion, actually, because it's really easy to be in the echo chamber of talking about spirituality and the universe and, you know, all of the stuff that we can talk about, do talk about, and are safe to talk about in our circles. And actually the other person's view on the other side was very, very, very different. So different, in fact, that she was like, this stuff is dangerous. And so we had an incredible discussion, and when it came down to it, actually it was about semantics, because she still believed in her possibility of being able to create. It's just that she didn't like the word universe or my life path. But, you know, it doesn't matter what the language is, we're all trying to.
Yeah, and one of the quotes that comes to mind is, and I think I said this with one of my clients the other day, it's like, wisdom is universal, but form is personal. So we all have it, but it's like we all have our own ways of describing it. And I think for me, one of the things that helped me see that differently was just looking at nature, because I think everyone can relate to the fact that there's this kind of natural intelligence living nature, and that's the same for us. And it's, you know, that's not particularly spiritual, but it's just a pointer towards that natural intelligence behind life. And I think that's what we're all kind of pointing to in our own human forms, our own ways of describing it. And that's why I think I love the way that you describe it as magic, but it's a practical magic. So that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is about my work is that I want to be able to reach my biggest mission at the moment is to light up 100,000 hearts all over the world.
Yeah.
And that means being able to have a conversation where we can be in a space to talk openly about our thoughts, our feelings, our dreams, our hopes, and how we choose to live a life that makes us feel good, and where we can be a fullest expression of ourselves. And for me, it's magic. It is literally is magic when somebody can take away layers of anything that was holding them back and create and be and share their voice and make a difference in the world in a way they weren't able to before. Because they're almost like they've come home to themselves.
Yeah, and it's that seeing something different again, isn't it? That helps with that.
Yeah.
I don't know whether anybody wants to pull a card. Can we do that, or does anybody?
Let's do that.
Do we have any volunteers? By the way, Jennifer said awesome song about you.
Yes, it is a very awesome song. Yeah.
I don't know if anybody wants to pop a comment in saying that they would like a card.
Or we can do one for the group as well.
Okay. Well, let's go for it.
Okay. Let's do that then. So why don't we all just close your eyes for a minute and take in a nice deep breath. And let's, as a collective, feel into an intention for what our energy is bringing up, and a connection to what the collective energy is bringing up. And just take a moment for that to land into your heart. And you don't have to consciously know what that is. It could be a feeling, or there could be nothing. It doesn't matter. Oh, one's dropped out. Let's see what this one is. So I've pulled here. Can we all see this? This is the Energize card. So this is interesting that this card has been pulled, actually, because I'm on a week challenge with some of my community at the moment, which is all about expand your energy. And at this time, particularly, there is a heaviness, isn't there? As a global feel, there's a heaviness in the air. We know this. We've got a lot of fear. We've got a lot of illness. There's a pandemic. And it's very easy for the energy to feel heavy. This card comes from the vitality section of the deck. As you can see up here, there's just a little heartbeat there. So this card really is about how we can expand our energy. So if our collective intuition has called for this, what is your individual intuition asking right now, or talking to you about this card? What is it where you have been feeling stuck or stagnant energy? And I'm just going to read from the book. So every single card has a reading to it, and it has an affirmation, and then it has an exercise to do. So this is a lovely affirmation, actually, for this group. I have all of the energy of the universe inside of me. And how funny is that? Because it's exactly what we've been talking about.
Yeah, that's so funny. And there's a couple of things that come to mind as well, so I'll dive into that after.
Yeah, so are you feeling a little lackluster and in need of an energy boost? If you've been physically, emotionally, or mentally in one spot for too long, you may have noticed depleted energy reserves. Maybe you've been giving everything you've got to everyone else, making sure their needs are met before you even consider your own. How's that working out for you? Not so good, huh? It's time to reinvigorate and re-energize. And the activation exercise that comes with this one is a shaking exercise. So in Koya, we, as I say, there's 13 different pillars, and we go into a shadow pillar, and as we come out of that, to reinvigorate the body of any stuck energy, of any heavy energy, is to literally shake in the way that animals do in the wild. So this is a really good one for if you are feeling that stuck, stagnant energy in your body, to literally shake every part of yourself. And you might want to put on a really banging track and just like really release it out. But this is so good, trauma release exercise. It's just really good for shifting energy. If it's something that's in a project potentially that might be feeling a bit stagnant, how can you shake that up? What needs to change for you to shake the stagnant energy out of it? So that feels like a good one for all of us.
Yeah, and it's so interesting, because I think what comes to mind for me is almost like everything is energy. And
Yeah.
so what I mean by that is kind of like, wisdom is an energy, and even thought is an energy. And for me, that's how our reality is created. We're living in a thought created reality. So yeah, it's quite interesting. I don't know if I'm explaining that quite how I wanted to, but everything is almost energy just moving through us, if that makes sense. So
If anybody's read any Joe Dispenza, and he talks about, like I said at the beginning, the fact that an atom is 0.0.1% matter and the rest is energy, means that we are energy. Quantum is energy, so we can create with anything, and we create our reality into existence by thought. Thought becomes an energy. So everything around us we've created by thinking it into place almost.
yeah.
Human beings have created the physical form of things we see around us, but then when you look into how nature just creates on its own anyway, it's still going to keep doing that.
Yeah, I know, and that's
Everything
kind of
is
what I
energy.
love, and I think that's kind of like, for me, that's what it's all about. It's about seeing that there is something that's living us, but we can still create what we want in human form as well. It's like we are being lived, but we also kind of get the ability to create what we want from that, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's really cool. We got Jennifer says, what came up for me was about guarding my personal energy, was the collective energy and anxiety is so heightened. As I am an empath, I easily absorb a lot from others, so I have to be really conscious of my boundaries so that I don't get drained and can look after myself and stay charged.
Oh my God, that's so important, especially right now. Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing it a lot, as I'm sure most of us are. Just there is so much fear, and as an empath, collectively, there's more than there's ever been. It's a real spike. So yes, your own energy is really important to protect.
Yeah, what comes to mind for me, because that's, again, I see that a little bit differently. So this might be a really interesting point of difference to talk about, because actually earlier I was talking a little bit about this in terms of, I actually talked about it in terms of when we have a disagreement with somebody and we can kind of get very stuck in like needing to set boundaries. And what came to me the other day when I was having a disagreement with someone, this is a little bit different situation, but it was still about boundaries, was that like in the moment I was kind of like, right, I'm so right about this. And then what came to me was, well, you can either be right or you can be well. And I was like, oh yeah, I actually don't need to set boundaries. Like I can just kind of, that it's almost like this illusion I've created in my head that I need to be right, if that makes sense. And so I very much see differently about this particular topic that Jennifer's mentioning, is that almost like we don't need to protect our energy, because that's almost just a thought, if that makes sense. I don't know if that does.
I think that in itself but it's an interesting one, because that in itself is a boundary, isn't it? You have created a protective energy around your own thought pattern there, which is that was the answer to something that wasn't working for you, wasn't it? Which is what we're often doing, or always doing, to pivot to protect ourselves. So if I put that into a scenario of, you know, say I'm having a challenge with my partner, for example, because of all the old stories that play out as they do, and in that instance, if I might be saying that, say for example, he's had a bad day and we're taking out on each other, and then we get stuck in our stories about something. There's the choice there, isn't there? What do I do with this
Yeah.
situation? Do I do with that, or do I go with that? And that choice in itself is a boundary, because you could say, right, I'm gonna let my energy not work in a way that doesn't work for me, or I can look after my own energy in a way that does work for me.
Yeah,
And
I
that
think for me
itself,
it was more about seeing that actually we're all operating in our own little thought bubbles, if that makes sense. And so really what is going on in that disagreement is that they're in their own little thought bubble and I'm in my own little thought bubble, and really they can't impact me. So that's kind of the way I see it, is that all of this stuff is going on and we're only interpreting it through our own thoughts, through our thinking. And so actually it can't really impact us because it's still external to us, if that makes sense. So I don't know if that helps, Jennifer. Was like, you're saying you're kind of guarding your personal energy. It's almost like if we can just see that this fear and this anxiety is created via our thinking, and that then creates the anxious feeling, it kind of, it doesn't need to impact us because it's just a thought, if that makes sense. So in that way, we don't need boundaries. That's kind of where I was trying to get to in that explanation. Because that's very much how I see it. And it's like, again, coming back to energy, it's like we have this thought energy that's kind of coming in and getting us on that fear and anxiety bandwagon, particularly about what's going on at the moment. And really, you know, unless it's actually kind of directly impacting us, and even if it is, we can kind of just deal with that. We've got that wisdom there that helps us know what to do in that particular moment.
it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's the difference between perception and reality, you know, whatever we see as reality. But it is, yeah, the thought reality is what's perception and what's real, i.e. what's happening to you right in this moment, and then what you can do about that thought.
Yeah. And but all our experience, in my experience, all our experience is created from thought. If it makes sense. What did she say? I guess it's an image that helps me to see my own thought reality bubble as separate from others. Yeah, I like that as well. But
It
yeah.
reminds me of when I went to a mindfulness session once, and the monk was talking about, it was all about how we can be more, what's the word, patient, that's it, patience. And she was talking about the fact that if you imagine people who are coming at you who are testing your patience, if you can imagine that in their, when you look at them and you look at their forehead, you can imagine that Buddha is there operating their system to teach you patience. And I just thought that was a really great, it's always stuck with me about how somebody else or other situations that may feel at that time like they're draining you or challenging you are actually the opportunity for you to practice more patience or practice more love. And
Yeah, and
you know,
come back to
like that.
the truth as well. It's like, because for me, again, it's like there's actually nothing to forgive, because if we look beyond all the thought, again, we're all wisdom, and we're all, and for me, there's different labels. I've said it's like that's also love or connection, like that's our true nature, that's who we were born as. And that's why I like your deck, because it's kind of reminding us of that. It's like we're all born as wisdom, we're all born with this ability to create, and it's like just that reminder that actually that's, you know, that's so true.
And in every moment as well.
Yeah.
You know, we forget that. We forget. We get caught in feeling stuck or feeling lost or confused, or, you know, it's okay to feel emotion. Like that's really, really super important.
Yeah.
But when we get caught in the trap of, you know, anxious thinking or the overwhelm, that we in every moment have the ability to be able to connect in with ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. I totally agree with that. It's like, yeah, no matter what's going on, we always have that wisdom there to kind of support us back. And it's like inbuilt, really. It's just often we kind of get in the way of it ourselves. It's like, because we're human and that's
We're
what we
human.
do.
We overcomplicate things,
Yeah.
definitely. I know I do all the time, which is why I'm so glad that I created this deck that I can just go, okay, yeah, okay, let's get out of my own way. Let's just crack
Yeah.
on. That's what I need to do now. Yeah.
It is. It's a beautiful reminder, and it's funny because I used to have a big thing with affirmations that I used to love them, but actually I kind of loved them and hated them at the same time, because I would sit there and not really believe them until I really saw that actually affirmations are really just the truth, but we can't always see it as true. And so again, it's like that reminder of, they're almost like a reminder for me now. I don't particularly use them now because I don't feel the need to, now that I just see that whatever we're trying to affirm is the truth. You know, we've got all of it within us. So that was just interesting as well, because yeah, it's a bit different, I think. I mean, you know, I struggled with affirmations for a while, but now I just see them again as a reminder of the truth, a bit like these cards.
Yeah. And they're also in how we expand the energy out. So if affirmations are something that helps you to lift out of a stuck place or raise a vibration, and you can use them in vibrational language as well. And if it is not affirmations, it might be chanting, or it might be music, or it might be dancing. It's like whatever you need to do to expand that energy in a way.
Yeah, and it comes back to that choice again. You know, we have the choice as to what we feel kind of reminds us, and if that feels good for you, then do it. It's like, again, my message is kind of like, we don't need self-help because we've got everything we need, but at the same time, like I said, we're kind of human, and so we get to choose and play and create however we like. So yeah, it's one of those things that if we love doing that, then it's cool.
Yeah. And if you love doing it, do more of it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us about your festival, because I'm really excited about that as well. And I think, again, it's nice to hear about kind of what made you set that up. Is kind of, obviously you've shared a little bit about that already, but it's like that self-care element, I guess. How did that come through as well?
So the idea for the awakening came with all of the best ideas that I have in the shower.
Of course.
And it's
The
always my
absence of thought.
yeah,
It's
it
just
is my
singing.
place of inspiration. And it came from the fact that I've been doing retreats on the Isle of Wight, which is where I grew up for some time. And I'm really lucky in the community I've got, be it, spread around the world, and also particularly in the UK, in London, and I live near Brighton now, so I've got this incredible, just diverse groups of people that I know all over the place from the self-care and wellbeing world. And particularly I've got a great community of people that I know and love on the Isle of Wight as well. And it's just such an incredible place. I don't know if anybody's been there, but it's got a very healing energy to it. So I take people over there for weekend retreats of getting them connected back to themselves and getting into nature and moving the body and doing lovely meditation. And a lot of people on the island were like, hey, I really want to come to one of these things. I really need it in my life. But I can't give myself to go to something on the island for a full weekend. And not everybody can afford to go to retreats. They are, very special that we get to do them. And the idea came of like, well, what if I could just have one day that I could open up an invitation and bring people to the Isle of Wight, of all of these incredible teachers that I know, and almost share them with my community. And it was particularly, there was one woman who's a friend of one of my best friends, and I remember chatting to her in Cowes High Street on the Isle of Wight, and I remember her saying, I just don't have the time for doing a whole weekend. So I was like, right, okay, that's it, I'm going to do a day. I literally cannot, all of these clues keep coming up. Yeah. So that's where it started from, and I knew exactly where it needed to be straight away. It was just like one of those, it just all falls into place. was like, I'm just going to open it, and I have no expectations about what's going to happen. I do event organizing. I'm very good at that kind of thing. And I'm just going to see what happens. And the most beautiful unfolding of gorgeous people coming to share their work, and everybody who came along to it who didn't have a clue what to expect. I didn't have a clue what to expect. But the intention was there, that all I wanted was a space where people could come and put the oxygen mask on and breathe deeply and connect, and just try things that they may never have tried before, have a conversation with somebody that sparks something in them, and just be there, try something and leave the rest, but take it home with you. You know, take it home, fill yourself up, make sure you're in the queue, not at the back of the queue. And then that has a positive impact, not just on you, it has a positive impact on your family, it has a positive impact on your community, on the environment, because we're starting to care more, because we're seeing out rather than in so much. And yeah, and that's where it started from. And last year was the first year, it was absolutely beautiful. And this year is coming back even bigger, bolder, and more beautiful. There's going to be around 50 different talks and workshops, and from a range of things like astral projection through to Zen, and in the middle talking about menopause. And Nicole, you're going to be there. So it really is something for everyone, I think.
Yeah, and that's what I love about it. And I think, like you say, it's kind of the opportunity again to just really have people explore what kind of lights them up, what taps them into their magic, in a way. It's like, well, yeah, if you don't know what kind of feels good or drops you into your wisdom, and again, I say that with the caveat of it's all coming from us, like we're the ones allowing that magic to come out, but it's like, yeah, a really cool way of exploring, and again, potentially hearing something new that you've not heard that will have that impact and have that transformational kind of, yeah, just seeing something different.
Yeah, and it's lovely because I think, like you touched on it, you know, the way I speak about things is very open. So it doesn't feel like you have to be particularly woo to come to something like this. All you need to do is come with an open heart and a sense of curiosity.
Yeah.
And I had people there last year who, some of them I might kind of said, well, I've got this ticket for you for your birthday, and they're like begrudgingly coming along with a yoga mat going, oh, I hate yoga. And then by the end of it, they're like, oh my God, I really love all of this world. And you just, for me, being able to see the journey that they've been on from coming to something like that, and how they've just allowed that curiosity to guide them through the rest of the year, and see, like, I'm so fortunate I can see how that's had an impact on them, because they've gone from being closed to open.
Yeah.
It's just the most beautiful thing.
It's such a nice feeling, and I see that very much with clients. It's like the curiosity is a big word for me as well. I think if you're curious and you're kind of staying open to seeing something new, that's when transformation can really happen. And it's like you just see people's eyes open really wide, and it's, oh my God, this is a whole different world to what I thought. And yeah,
And sometimes there's a slight confusion.
yeah,
Sometimes there's a bit like, I don't really know what's going on here, but I'm just gonna go with it anyway.
yeah.
And that's great too. And
Yeah, I
just
always say
allowing.
as well, it's like I was writing about that actually earlier in my book that I'm writing. It's like sometimes there's a resistance with it at first. And whilst people get very kind of like, oh, well, I need to figure out that resistance. It's like, no, because really all that's happened is like your belief systems like hit up against something and it's kind of working it out and like, hang on a minute. And then you'll often find that will lead to them seeing something new as well.
Yeah, I love the resistance. That's when I'm like, ha, 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 we are on something here. Because it's always the resistance that is before a change or an unfolding, or, you know, a discovery of something.
Yeah, people come to me and they're like, I'm having a breakdown. I'm like, no, you're having a breakthrough. this is good. We're seeing something new. Yeah, that's really cool. And I just love as well, it's almost like that sense of they can come and explore and just have that spaciousness. I think again, it's that space that allows us to see something different.
Definitely. And because of where it is, it's in this beautiful restored manor house, absolutely stunning, and it's got just lawns that look out over the Solent. The reason I wanted to have it on the Isle of Wight is for people on the Isle of Wight to have something to come to, but also those people who are coming from the mainland, wherever that is in the world. We had people from all over last year, and getting on a ferry to an island, there is a metaphorical breath that you exhale as you go over.
Like going on holiday.
And then it's just having the space. So the big thing is, come and try something, or don't try anything. Like, come and do the workshops or have a nap. Like, really, it is your space. And we don't often do that for ourselves, do we? Is just have a space where we can just be guided again by our intuition to trying something or not trying something, or just enjoying a gorgeous conversation with somebody. The thing I loved last year, which was really interesting, although I don't want it to happen this year, thank you weather gods, is that there was some pretty crazy gale force winds on the morning, and people arrived, and it was the beginning of June, so it should have been really beautiful weather, and it was cold, and everybody came in and their collars were up, and you could just see them looking around at each other going, what the hell is this? And this sense of, like, sometimes wind can play havoc with the mind, and I could just feel everybody bringing their stuff, and I was like, come on,
there was
bring
a lot
it
thinking
in.
about the weather.
And throughout the day, as the weather lifted and as people were dropping into things a bit more, you could just see them relaxing. I had a lady there doing aura photography, and she said to me at the end of the day, like halfway through the day, Kate, I had 4 people in a row and all of their chakras were completely aligned, because whatever they'd been doing in the day, their energy had just settled. And it was just like, that's my only wish, that's my intention, that you bring your stuff and you come home to yourself.
Yeah, and I love that, because it's almost like nature was teaching that lesson again. I think there's so much you can take from nature, and it's like life does do this. I always say this, it's like, sometimes it's raining and sometimes it's sunshine, and like we can still live through all of that, and still kind of, wisdom's still there, and we will return to it eventually. So
And whilst we might go, oh my God, is this rain ever going to stop?
yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. No, it sounds like it's really, again, it's kind of summing up that perfect opportunity for self-rediscovery. In a way, it's like a way of tuning into who we are, whilst exploring who we want to be and what we want to do. And yeah, that's really fun. And what I love about that as well is kind of just going back to creativity, like how you described that just kind of unfolded. It's like you were just inspired in the shower, and it just kind of unraveled. And I think that's the thing, it's like when we're not in our heads and we're just more operating from that wisdom space, it's like these things just kind of naturally unfold almost.
Yeah, and they do. And Jessica Huey talks about this in her book Purpose, and I feel very fortunate to have had the experiences that I've had, those dark days and the dark nights of the soul, of losing my parents and going through, there's still daily challenges, there's still lessons to be learned, we're always uncovering. But knowing what I'm here and how I'm here to show up, how I'm here to be the fullest expression of myself and to help other people, means that whatever I create in and around that can never be wrong. So whether it's trying something, there's so many things that I've picked up and put down again, and then there's other things that I've picked up and absolutely run with, and some of that hasn't, then elements of that don't work, but you do something else. And so I think being tuned, particularly for me, being able to be tuned into that sense of what I'm here to do in the world and how that's shifting, changing, evolving, is just a wonderful place to create from. I can always pivot from that.
Yeah, I love that. And again, for me, I don't know that I feel that there needs to be a purpose, but I feel like we can choose a purpose and really roll with that, and kind of, because I think a lot of people can get stuck in that idea that we need a purpose as well, and then get stuck in thinking, well, what is my purpose? And then kind of go from that from that perspective is almost.
Yeah. And you can look at it from the other angle of, that's the thing. What is the thing that lights you up? Like,
Yeah,
if
exactly.
purpose feels like a heavy word,
Yeah.
like it's something that has to be attained at all costs,
Yeah.
then what lights you up? What, I love that question that us coaches will use is, what do you want to be saying from your deathbed?
Mm.
And I've been lucky enough to have past life regressions where I've been able to go into an archetype of energy that shows me what that is as a healer quality. And that's been so powerful. Is like, I'm just here to show up and be connected to this sense of wanting to help
And
in a
play
most
with
kind and
what you
compassionate
want.
way.
Yeah, playing with what you want to create as well, which I very much see you do. It's like, it feels
Yeah.
very playful and fun, and I think that's the space to create from, isn't it? It's like that element of fun, and it is, again, we're human. It's not going to be smooth all of the time, but I think as long as we're kind of coming from that place of joy, it's almost like that's where we'll succeed from. Although again, success is like, well, we were interpreting it.
We wrap ourselves up in so much language, don't
I
we?
know.
Language is an energy in itself. So again, you have to be really careful with not careful, you have to be playful and curious with the words that work for you too.
Yeah, exactly. And for everyone else, we're all kind of making it up as we go along, really. In our own,
One of my favourite sayings, we're making it up as we go along. Absolutely.
Which is cool, because then we can create anything. Cool. Or does anybody have any questions before we finish? Just pop them in the group chat, and if you've got any, we'll answer them before we go. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to tell us about that you've been creating or working on recently.
I've been mainly focusing on the awakening. I did this incredible press launch on the ferry.
How was that?
It was really good fun.
Oh.
But it's really funny doing these things because you put so much energy into the creation of them, and then when they're happening, it's like, oh, this is weird, isn't it? So this thing that I've actually been working on really hard is here now.
Yeah.
And that's been really fun. And no, there's so many things in the ether. One of the things that I really have had to recognize in myself, that not all ideas have to happen right now.
Yeah.
So some of them have got a little pin in them, and there will be an unfolding later on if they are meant to be.
Yeah, that's it. And it's like that dreaming and then allowing it to unfold almost, with a little bit of patience. I'm like you. I'm kind of like, yeah, I want it now. I want to just do it now.
Yeah, exactly. But I have had to, one thing that I've had to get really aware of is, and this is why I love this journey, is my rhythms, flows and cycles. Because as I said at the beginning, having watched my parents, particularly my mum, die of a burnout of her whole system, and I get a repeating image of her in her head with her head down, going to work, doing all the things, being all the things. That is my tendency to do. So I have to be really mindful of just how much I can put my energy to in one go. So really tuning into my rhythms and flows is just massively important for me as well, and when I can be at my most creative, and then when I have to rest. Working on that one.
Yeah Me too. But I love that though, and I think again, it's like when you look at the cycles in nature, you see that that's kind of just happening all the time. Like there's the periods of rest and there's the periods of doing, and so it's kind of, again, it's like this inbuilt wisdom that's throughout the whole of life. But we can so be tempted to kind of force it and be like, nah, I'll just do it anyway. It's like, so we see it and then we're like, no, okay, slow down.
That's when I have to be really careful. I know when I'm doing too much, when everybody's going, oh my goodness, look at you. I mean, you've got so much going on at the moment, I can't keep up. And then I'm like, yeah, that's how I feel as well. So I better do something about that.
I think it, like you say, it kind of comes down to the feeling. If it feels good and energizing, there's one of my favorite quotes is, if resting is stressful and dancing is I can't remember basically like saying if dancing is feeling restful, then kind of dance. So.
I'm going to be dancing this weekend. I'm going to Rest Fest and I cannot wait for a dance. I haven't done any choir for ages, so I can't wait.
We've got a few comments here. We've got just to say, I've loved this. So glad I chose to be here. So many things that resonate and lots to ponder. Thank you so much, Kate and Nicole. Everything I love here: creativity, curiosity, words of spells, cycles and rhythms, making it up as we go along. Also, excellent necklace, Kate.
Thanks, Jennifer. I'm glad you appreciate. It's always got to be here with a good necklace. And I might also say, I had my nails done yesterday. Have you seen anything so amazing in your life? Shell nails.
Yeah.
I mean, hello, that brought me joy.
I love that. So thank you so much for being here. Thanks for sharing. It was it was a really interesting conversation. I'm just going to introduce the next speaker. So feel free to pop off if you need to go. But
see you later, everybody.
Thanks, Kate. Okay, so next Friday, the 13th. No, sorry, hang on. We're the 13th today. Who knows? Whatever. Next Friday, we have the lovely Mandy Spray. So Mandy is a very special lady to me. She was actually my coach. So she loves to help people make sense of life, which is very much what we did together. She's again shares the 3 principles understanding that I share. So this will be a really exciting conversation. She's here to actually talk to us. She does a lot about parenting. And so helping parents have an easier experience of life, basically. But she also deals a lot with creativity and helping people to kind of tune into their true creativity. So she's going to be here to share all about that. So that is going to be exciting. I think it's going to be pre-recorded because we aren't able to make it live, but I will show up live to play it and have any questions and answer those. So yeah, I will see you next Friday, and if you have any questions, as usual, just drop me a message or an email or however you want to get in touch, or on the Facebook group as well. But otherwise, I will leave you to it, and chat to some of you soon. Lots of love. Joy.